It's late at night, and the weather is turning against you. You had some errands to run, but time got away from you. Midnight is approaching, and you want to finish your walk home before the weather gets too bad. The streets that are full of life during the day are now completely barren. The sky let loose with a cold, lonesome rain, and with your hood up, you start a light jog. The streetlights seem dimmer than ever, and you can't see very well, but no worries, you know the route by memory. Angling your head down in an attempt to keep the rain out of your eyes, you pick up your pace. Suddenly, your gaze is captured by a silhouette across the street, but you continue running. As you bring your gaze forward, you notice at the last second a person in front of you. You accidentally run into them, and both of you topple over. As you get back to your feet, you offer the stranger an apology and a hand up. They take your hand without a word, and you notice their hand is like ice. Once again, your gaze is stolen by the person grasping your hands. The person you ran into appears to be a beautiful young woman. She has long black hair, pretty eyes, slim figure, but a mask is covering up half of her face. As you stand there, captured by this woman, she asks you, "Am I beautiful?" You say, "Absolutely." She slowly reaches up and begins taking her mask off. What you see next covers you in goosebumps and fills you with fear. Her cheeks are sliced all the way back to her jaw. With the skin still bloody and the flesh hanging, she once again asks, "Am I beautiful?" To which you let out the bravest, "What the fuck?" as you courageously turn and run away. You glance back to see if she's following you, but you don't see her. You turn back forward and are mere feet from her. Frozen in fear, you notice a slight glint of light reflecting in her hand. She is holding large scissors and approaches. You almost seem to be paralyzed, other than you're still standing. She grabs you with her sadistic, unnatural smile. She slides the scissors into your mouth and starts cutting a smile into your face.
Minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to the Paranatural Podcast. My name is Ben.
I'm Bob Denver.
I'm Derek.
That's not Bob Denver, that's Jake. And our very special guest, Derek. Tonight, we are so glad to have you with us as we wobble into the weebtastic world of Yokai. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
Wobble into the weebtastic world. I love it.
And I'll just say I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fucking fantastic.
Why?
Well, because you're going to remind me about yokais.
Yeah. But first, Benjamin.
Yes.
Don't you know?
The Muffin Man?
we have a couple of things to announce.
We do?
No, dude.
Reviews on the show.
We
on
didn't,
the website.
we didn't get any this week.
Yeah, we did.
Where the
I
fuck was
accepted
that?
them.
Well, holy shit. I'm not used to you doing this part. Go ahead, buddy.
Jake's
All right.
Yeah.
You really didn't know?
No, I didn't see him.
All right. So I guess I'm doing this part. How did you not see him?
Probably because you got to him before I did, fucker.
I let him sit there for like 3 days before I opened it. Kids these days. All right. So this one says it's a 5-star, and it says, like catching up with an old friend. It's amazing. Every podcast provides in-depth and detailed information about every story, and I get to hear my boy Jake. Love you, man, and glad you're doing well. That is from my dear friend Rice in high school, Joshua Cooper, but you know who you are. So thanks, buddy. Love you too. Miss you. Oh, there is this pissy nutsack that I have to give a shout out. This one goes to my dear brother Derek, who he called me up the other day bitching up a storm that I didn't give him a shout out. He has been with us since the very beginning, And I'm pretty sure he was one of our first 3 or 4 Patreon members. And now we have 6 or 8, how many ever. But
And
thank
the
you,
only
Derek.
person to ever come on and guest host the show.
Well, I
No,
would like to say,
Justin.
Oh, yeah.
well, here's my big problem with it, right? So I sat there, I listened 8 minutes into the fucking show and Jake's going on, or I'm sorry, both of you guys were going on, and you're like, oh man, Jake's like, she's a rock and roll lady. She gets down to like 2 or 3, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, Derek.
So I paused the episode and I called Jake and I said, hey. And he said, hey, how's it going? I said, fuck you. That's how it's going. And he was like, well, what's going on? And I said to him, I said, you fucking dick. I said, how many times? Am I not a supporter? Do I not do great things for you? Am I not on the Facebook? Do I not contribute? Was it not my idea to go and ask Angel if you could have an interview when we went to the thing? But no shout out for Derek. And then he was like, well, do you want to be on this show? I said, when?
Yeah.
Well, Derek, for the record, I think you're a rock and roll lady too.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, you weird bastard. And I would like to just point out that if you want to make your dreams come true and actually be a part of the podcast, all you need to do is find Jake's personal cell phone number, call him, yell at him for 20 minutes, unsolicited, just fucking mean shit. And you too could probably get on the podcast.
Maybe. I almost like you more than most people.
Almost. I hope you stiff your balls into a bear trap.
I have. That's why they're not there.
All right, with that in mind, Jacob, tell us about some yokais, bud.
So, the one that I brought up in the intro, we're talking about 3 of them today, just because we like to have fun. The first one, the one with the wonderful, beautiful face, is Kuchisake Anna.
Bless you.
Yeah, bless me. Okay. So, according to legend, Kuchisake Anna was a woman who was mutilated during her life, with her mouth being slit from ear to ear. In some versions of the story, the Kuchisake Anna was an adulterous wife or a mistress of a samurai during her life. She grew lonely because the samurai was always away from home fighting, and she began having affairs with men in town. When the samurai heard of this, he was outraged. As a punishment for her infidelity, her husband sliced the corners of her mouth from ear to ear. And a more in depth, she was adulterous, and her beauty would gain the attention of the richest and strongest suitors. Word spread through the land about her beauty, and that she only accepted the strongest suitors. The samurai heard about the woman, and he didn't know who she was. So with his ego, he decided to prove to her that he was the strongest, even though he was happily married. One night, he got quite drunk with a friend, and they decided to walk over to the beautiful woman's house. The samurai noticed, despite his intense inebriation, that he recognized where they were going. He ended up busting through the door, killing the guy that she was in bed with, like shish kebabbing him with a sword, and slicing her face for being unfaithful. And then in other versions of the tale, her mouth was mutilated by a dental procedure or by a woman who was jealous of her beauty. And then in a lot of the stories, for some reason, her teeth are filled with numerous sharp teeth, or her mouth is.
Well, yeah,
Now-
how else is she going to eat you?
Well, so she doesn't eat you. She just stabs you to death or cuts your face.
Don't tell my lawyer we kill people, man.
So you guys have watched Mortal Kombat or played the games.
Yes.
What's the lady with the face that I'm thinking?
Is that Melina?
Is it Melina?
Are you
I'm
talking
pretty-
about the purple lady? The purple lady with the big.
The lady with the exact, like, her face is carved all the way back. I think it's Melina.
Yes, it is. Melina.
Okay.
Hold on, I gotta Google her too.
You don't have to Google her. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. After her death, the woman returned as a vengeful spirit or an Onryo. Thank you, Google. As an Onryo, she covers her mouth with a cloth mask, often specified as a surgical mask, or in some iterations, a hand fan or a handkerchief. She carries a sharp instrument with her, which has been described as a knife, machete, scythe, or a large pair of scissors. She is also described as having supernatural speed. She is said to ask potential victims if they think she is attractive, often phrased Watashi Kiri, which translates to Am I beautiful? If the person answers no, she kills them with her weapon. If the person answers yes, then she will reveal her mutilated face, and then she repeats the question or asks Kore demo, which translates to even with now or even with this. And if the person responds with no and or screams in fright, she will kill the person or carve their face up.
What if you say yes?
If the person answers yes but shows fear, then she slices mouth from ear to ear, resembling her own disfigurement. And other variations, if you say yes a second time and don't show fear or disgust, she will give you a red diamond. If you tell her that you don't have time when she asks if you're beautiful, then she apologizes for wasting your time and lets you go. So
even the Japanese monsters are very, very polite.
Oh, so
Good.
Well, she isn't all bad. She just wants to know if she's pretty and carve a few faces, and if that's a crime, then I'm guilty of it too.
Oh.
So now this is my favorite part. An individual can survive an encounter with Kuchei Sakeyana by using one of several methods. In some versions of the legend, Kuchei Sakeyana will leave the potential victim alone if they answer yes to both questions, though in other versions, she will visit the individual's residence later that night and kill them. Other survival tactics include replying to the Kuchei Sakeyana's question by describing her appearance as average, giving the individual enough time to run away, distracting her. Or you can throw money at her or hard candies. But the candy has to be Bekoame, which is caramel, hard caramel. And she will be distracted and pick all of them up, which reminds me of that one vampire that I did where they have to count all the grains of rice before entering your house.
Ain't that about a bitch?
Monsters be counting.
Yep. And then you can also stop her by saying pomade 3 times.
What does that mean?
Not pomade, like the hair
The
stuff.
hair gel?
I don't know.
This thing has a lot of rules and regulations that it must abide by.
Yeah, it does. So few people live to tell the tale after seeing Kuchei Sakeyana, but there are some stories from survivors. Once, a boy named Chance encountered the terrifying spirit as he was taking a shortcut through the woods. His mother had warned him to stay away from the remote area, but he didn't listen. He did know one thing, however. Evil spirits could be banished by saying certain words. When Kuchei Sakeyana stepped out from behind a tree and confronted him, he fell in terror, landing on his back. She gazed down at him and asked the famous question, "Am I pretty?" As she removed her mask to reveal the horror beneath, Chance grabbed his cross necklace and chanted the devil's curse.
In the name of the Holy Spirit, get the fuck away from me.
Well, after chanting that, he hoped that she would run away, but instead demonic hands rose up from the dirt and basically dragged her to hell.
Well, fuck.
You know, so kids, that's what you got to chant when you encounter Kuche Sakayana.
Apparently.
So, little history. She was well known in the Edo period of the 1600s, but she slowly faded into the shadows as time passed. Then in the early 1970s, she returned into the public imagination with a vengeance. Children claimed to see her everywhere around Nagasaki, which I had to look up because Nagasaki was one of the places that had the A-bomb happen.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it was never too radioactive to live there, like even right after the bombs went off.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like, yeah.
No,
that
it
happened
was
in the 70s.
habitable shortly after.
Yeah.
Was it not Chernobyl-ish?
Right. So I looked it up. Chernobyl, that happened on the ground, whereas the atomic bombs went off above the ground. So like the wind kind of swept a lot of the radiation away.
Huh.
That and these were the first iteration. They weren't as radioactive as modern day nuclear technologies.
Yeah. So the police began to fear that there was a killer on the loose, and panic grew with each new sighting. They bumped up the night patrols and put out local warnings, but they never seemed to find her. And then 1979, it just stopped. Like all news, all reports, anything. So I'm thinking she's kind of like a Pennywise too.
So is that's actually like a historical thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have
It's
Japanese Freddy Krueger.
pretty much. It's been like she's been around since like the 1600s.
Huh.
Yeah. Edo period. So what I want to know is if anyone's like taking a swing at her, like, you know, like beat her in the head with a shovel or a truck. Or like another thing I kind of wonder is if she ever ran into someone with a kink for sliced face syndrome.
Somebody who sake'd her Kuchiana.
Yeah, and if so,
maybe that's why
then-
she went away in 79. She finally had enough and she was happy.
She would be kind of victimized again.
Jake,
Don't cancel our
actually,
show.
To answer your question there, Jake, I actually ran into her at one point.
And her cheeks tore more.
Huh? No.
Nothing.
I went to poke her eye out.
You poked her eye out. Now she has to
I
wear
attempted to.
because you're
Get
missing
it?
your finger. I get it. I
It's
get
my
it.
finger.
Yeah.
Funny.
Ray Charles could see that.
What if you're blind? And she asks if she's beautiful. You I don't
respond
know,
with,
bitch.
Hell if I know. And then she says, "Oh, feel it."
You just tell her beauty comes from the inside, and then she gets real confused. And
Yeah, so like apparently like most people, if they ask if they're attractive and they get the answer you're average, yeah, so like, don't you think that would kind of piss them off?
I mean, I guess.
You're not hideous.
Like
Look
you,
at her, be like on a scale of 1 to 10.
you're doable, I guess. You know.
You know, with a paper bag.
If you turn the lights off, you're fine.
The light
Are we
switch.
talking?
Nature's beer goggles.
Are we talking missionary, or are we talking in it from the back? Because
Derek, you remember that old show, that old movie Jennifer? Imagine it with
oh
that.
god,
Yeah. The Piggly Wiggly nose and
turn
Snaggle.
around, her around.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I see that going. Okay, so Benjamin, you already told me that you are you aware of what the techie is?
It'll come back to me as you talk, I'm sure. Techie san.
Okay. Huh?
Techie san?
Well, it's just techie.
No.
Yes.
Gotta be polite.
So I'll save my politeness for the last story
Why are we not doing any of this with an accent?
because I'm already saying enough to get us canceled.
That's real.
No.
Derek, you know what techie is?
All
right.
No, but I'm familiar with Teki Tepi Oka pudding.
I love pudding. Okay. So common elements of the legend that include Teki is a vengeful spirit, which we discussed is an onryo of a young woman or
Do they
schoolgirl
call it that because they're ornery?
Ben just cracked himself up.
Yes, I did. Okay, go ahead.
Jeez.
I'm done now.
I hope. A young woman or schoolgirl who fell on a railway line in northern Japan, which resulted in her being sliced in half by a train, missing her lower extremities. She is said to walk around on her hands or elbows, and it makes a scratching sound like teki as she moves. And if an individual encounters teki at night, she will chase them and cut their body in half often with a scythe, mimicking her own death and disfigurement.
Where are all these people getting scythes?
The hardware store?
Yeah, they go to Harbor Freight, Derek.
They don't sell them at Harbor Freight. I've been there.
They totally have sites at Harbor Freight. Or
I'm gonna
Farm and
disagree with
Fleet.
you. If they had one, I would have bought it.
Farm and Fleet.
There you go. TSC.
Yeah, Tractor Supplies, that gotta have them. So one version of the story concerns a young woman known as Kashima Reiko. As with the original iteration of the legend, Kashima died when her legs were severed from her body by a train after she fell on the tracks. According to some sources, some versions of the legend state that when an individual learns of Kashima's story, she will appear to them within a month. So heads up, everyone. And the Kashima Reiko story predates the Teki story. The legless spirit of Kashima Reiko is said to haunt bathroom stalls, asking occupants if they know where her legs are. If the questioned individual replies with an answer that Kashima does not find acceptable, she will rip their legs off. Individuals may survive the encounter by replying that her legs are on the machine expressway or by responding with the phrase Kamen Shinin Ma or Masked Death Demon, which may be a phonetic root to Kashima's name. So, I came across a fun little, it cracked me up, but this next part I got from yokai.com, and it was just, you'll see why I liked it so much. So a thank you to yokai.com. So where she gets her name is the sound of her walking. Alternate name, she's got Shaka Shaka, Peta Peta, Kata Kata, Kodo Kodo, or Jakaki Baba.
Wait. Jakaki Baba?
Yeah.
One of these things is not like the others.
Hijakaki Baba. Habitat.
Are these all relevant to the sounds that they make?
Probably not the Hijakaki Baba. If it makes that kind of noise, I'd be a little bit concerned. But So her habitat is urban areas and roads. Diet, none. Appearance. Teki Teki is a ghost who appears in a number of urban legends. Teki Teki are almost always women, though in few versions of the urban legend, the ghost is male. She has no lower half. She runs around on her arms, creating the distinct Teki Teki noise from where she gets her name. Interactions. Teki Teki chases its victims down dark roads despite having no legs. A Teki Teki can run incredibly fast, so fast, in fact, that it can even catch up to victims who are speeding away in cars. That would be pretty scary. When it catches them, something terrible happens. The legends are not always clear. In some variations of the story, the Teki Teki carries a sickle, and it slices the victims in half at the waist and steals their legs.
How does it carry a scythe?
In
What's
its
it got
mouth.
it in its fucking mouth?
Yes.
So
You've
let
played
me get
fetch
this
before.
straight. There's a half a person running around on their little nubby ass arms, carrying a scythe in its mouth.
They got whole
that
arms.
Nobody is attempting. Oh, they got whole arms.
Yeah. It's just their
Wow.
legs are
Got a
gone.
whole arm.
Makes a huge.
I don't know. In
And
some
nobody has
stories, it
tried to
floats.
just fucking.
Punt that bitch.
That's what I'm saying. Go Cristiano Ronaldo on that motherfucker.
I think it just wants a friend, and someone should try petting it.
Yeah, what's it gonna do? Bite you? It can't. It's got a scythe in its mouth.
Well, so it says it runs on its elbows too. So maybe
Yeah, so that's the other thing I don't understand. That's why I say nubby arms.
well,
But-
it's holding the scythe with the hands, so
Right.
it's running on its elbows. Maybe
How does
it's
that work?
using its
Then it has-
spine as a pogo.
So not only do all Japanese demons be asking silly ass questions when you encounter them, but there's one that is half a person strutting around on its elbows, carrying a stick with a knife in its mouth.
Yes.
What is so hard to believe about that, Derek?
And people call us crazy.
This is not even the most ridiculous
Weird.
yokai out there.
No, absolutely not. Like, there are some that I refuse to do because of just how idiotic it was.
So there is one that, Jake, if you're going to get to this, I'll cut this part out. But there is a yokai that is literally a sentient pair of sandals.
No.
What do they call that one?
I'd have to look it up. But yes, it's a sentient pair of sandals.
They call it flip flop, right?
Yeah.
Flip flop.
Flip, flop, flip, flop, flip,
That's
flop.
what that one's called.
I almost did the teddy bear that grows with every kid it eats.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a Wendigo teddy bear.
Huh.
So yeah. Pretty awesome. Now, the origin. Like with most urban legends, there are so many versions of the Teki Teki story that it is impossible to know what the original story was or where it began. Every has its own version with different details. In some stories, the Teki Teki was a victim of a tragic accident, and some it was suicide, and other stories, certain magic charms can protect you from its wrath. And others, nothing can protect you, and you will certainly die. In some versions, the Teki Teki's victims become Teki Tekis themselves. And there are a number of threads in common between many of the variations, and most common ones point towards a woman from a Japanese city named Kashima Reiko. But yeah, so we get the gist of the story, yes?
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Do you recall what the Teki Teki is now?
Yeah, I thought it was something else though.
Well, so apparently this thing can crawl on its elbows or hands at 150 kilometers per hour.
That's fucking
How
quick,
much is
but
that in American?
That is like 60 is 100.
Yeah, it's like 80 or 90. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so we can outdrive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently she's just pissed off that she got chopped in half.
But she
And,
will ask the question, where are my legs, before she starts chasing.
well, so she asks, do you know where her legs are? Do you need your legs?
Nah,
She's nice
nah,
about
take 'em.
it.
You know, I have to appreciate the fact that the stories give you the out. Like
Yeah.
they tell you the rules, they tell you what to say. You just got to not fuck it up when you find yourself face to face with these motherfuckers.
Yeah. So shortly after hearing the legend, she will ask you a riddle, either in a dream or a mysterious phone call. And the only way to escape death is to answer her questions exactly the right way. She will ask you, do you know where my legs are, or do you need your legs? You must reply, I need them right now. And she will ask you, who told you my story? Which you must reply, Kashima Reiko. Ka, the first part of her name, is mask. She, the middle part of her name, is death. And then Ma is demon. Then Ray is ghost, and Ko is accident. So there's a lot to this. And if you answer her riddles without mistake, she may just let you live.
So if you actually heard the name somewhere else and you give them the other name, then you're shit out of luck.
Yes. No,
Okay,
it's the same.
so-
It's the same name. Taki Taki is a type of.
No, they ask where you heard the story, right? It asks where you heard the story. So if I have a dream,
Kashima
that's
Reiko.
if I have a dream that thing comes up to me and it's like, do you need your legs? And I'm like, kinda. And then it says, who told you my story? I can't say Jake.
I mean, you could try it. Let me know how it goes. You've already lost one limb. You can you can stand to lose two more, right?
I swear to God, if I lose my fucking legs, I'm chasing you down with a stick in my mouth and fucking just elbowing it across the United States.
Well, I'm just gonna run to the right of you because I feel like with you missing half of your finger, it's kind of got to be like being low on air. You're gonna be pulling to the left.
I'm gonna be pulling to the left the entire time.
Okay. So I saved the hardest to pronounce for last. And this one actually has a story. Like someone's encounter. It's called Hachishaku-sama.
I'll believe it.
That's how it's pronounced, I promise. I looked it up a lot. Okay.
Shit's making me real.
You want to say it once, Derek? It's fun. Hachishaku-sama.
Jake, I cannot say it without an accent.
So say it with an accent.
What is it?
Hachishaku-sama.
Okay. Oh, Hachisakuama!
Sama. The Sama part is important.
Hakasakasama!
There you go.
Shaka shaka mayama.
Hachisakasama!
Hachishaku-sama.
Honestly, that kind of sounds like Spanish. ¿Cómo se llama?
Okay. That's enough of that.
But it kind of sounds sexual, so I'll roll with it, okay?
How did that sound sexual, Ben? Okay.
Oh,
Now say it with your eyes rolled
I
back
feel like-
in your head.
no, I feel like this is part of like on the Lion King. Mufasa.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll never guess what it translates to, Derek. Spit in my mouth.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, god damn it. I was about to be so happy. I'll say it with a different accent. What is it again? Hachisaku Amo?
Shaku-sama. Yeah.
Hachisaku Amo.
Sama.
Sama.
That's an important
Or
part
as I
of
like to
this.
say, spit my mouth.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
So we know of Slender Man, but can you imagine a slender woman?
Yes.
Probably
Okay,
on several occasions.
okay. So we hear a lot about many stories and sometimes creepy urban legends from around the world, but this legend from Japan is something that will give you chills and as you get to know about it. So it basically translates to 8-foot tall woman.
Damn, that's a big bitch.
Yeah. Now, yes, I know what you're thinking. 8 feet tall, Japanese. According to the universal rules of anime, she must have giant boobs. Don't worry, she is portrayed with gargantuan melons. Perverts.
Thank you, Japan.
I had to add that part. She didn't have tentacles, though.
Jake, how do you say, I want to climb you like a tree in Japanese?
I'm doing the story. You look it up.
All right.
Okay, so Hashishaku-sama is not the usual John Doe of urban legends because when we think of one, we imagine something like a human figure, scary, but at least not an inhumanly tall one. Wrong. We do think of that. Hashishaku-sama is way more different. As described in a folklore, she's an 8-foot tall woman, lurking in the darkness, making the scariest sound one can hear, waiting to abduct children without being bothered by an adult prey. Or for an adult prey. So the noise that she makes would be absolutely terrifying to hear because it's this super deep, manly voice saying po po po, but like super deep and quite manly. So
How is that the scariest noise ever?
because it's coming from a woman.
Po po po.
Oh no,
Green
no.
giant.
Like think demonic deep. Like a growly demonic. Plus it echoes. I wouldn't want to hear it.
I can turn on the reverb again.
Huh?
I said I can turn on the reverb again.
Nah.
Try it. Ready?
Okay.
Po, po, po.
Okay. I see why you're not afraid, Ben. That's kind of cute.
Oh.
Yeah, see, it's not. It's just that's just not scary. Boo boo boo. Like what?
Have Leilani try it.
Can you just say po 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 real deep?
I don't have a deep voice.
Try it.
You gotta pretend.
Like Santa Claus, po po po.
Yeah. Exactly like that.
He says ho ho ho.
Bo, bo, bo.
Bo bo bo.
Bo, bo,
bo,
shisho.
Sorry.
You were thinking the same thing I was, Derek. All right. So
Ben, did you have your voice thing on that made it that low?
Yeah, no. The high pitched one is
No?
on. No.
Ben's got some bass.
Yeah.
His taters hang low.
Yeah.
No, if I hit the voice thing, it's high pitched. It's still set to leprechaun.
See? Still set the leprechaun.
All right. So her appearance can vary from a withered old hag, it says, or an attractive woman, but always inhumanly tall. This creepy Japanese legend is known for luring kids from their home by sometimes calling their name in a familiar voice or sometimes crying out for help. Hashishaku-sama in folklore is considered to be a witch or a soul of a woman lurking in the darkness. It is believed that it is sometimes waiting for its hunt for days and sometimes months before luring them out. But the scary sound is something like "po po po" in a deep masculine voice. The legend says that Hashishaku-sama was imprisoned years ago by monks using 4 small Jizo statues, which are holy statues, placed in 4 directions surrounding a ruined building, north, east, west, south, those ones. And it was in the outskirts, hidden from everyone, so it couldn't be released. But one of the statues broke, and this gave the Hashishaku-sama the opportunity to escape from her prison, and she was kept in for many years. Hashishaku-sama then took the form of an 8-foot tall woman wearing a white summer dress, a wide-brimmed hat. Eyewitnesses say her appearance varies from an attractive woman to the most horrific thing ever. It is believed that Hashishaku-sama also stalks children for a few days to months before abducting them and later eating them.
I'm gonna eat you!
I was waiting for that. So, this is someone's story. It never says the name, but it's a bit of a long story, so get ready. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. My grandparents lived in Japan, and every summer my parents would take me out there on holiday to visit them. They lived in a small village, and they had a big backyard. I loved to play there during the summer. When we arrived, my grandparents always welcomed me with open arms. I was their only grandchild, so they spoiled me rotten. The last time I saw them was the summer when I was 8 years old. As usual, my parents booked a flight to Japan, and we drove from the airport to my grandparents' house. They were delighted to see me, and they had a lot of little presents to give me. My parents wanted to have some time by themselves, so after a few days, they took a trip to another part of Japan, leaving me in the care of my grandma and grandpa. One day, I was playing out in the backyard. My grandparents were still inside of the house. It was a hot summer day, so I laid down in the grass to rest. I stared up at the clouds and enjoyed the feeling of the soft rays of sunshine and the gentle breeze. Just as I was about to get up, I heard a strange noise. Sounded like po po po. Po po po. I didn't know what it was, and I had a hard time figuring out where it came from. It sounded like someone was making the noise themselves, as if they were just saying po 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 over and over again in a deep masculine voice. I was looking around, searching for the source, when suddenly I noticed something at the top of the tall hedges that was enclosed in the backyard. It was a straw hat. It wasn't resting on the hedge, it was behind it, and that's where the sound was coming from. Then the hat began to move as if someone were wearing it. The hat stopped at a small gap in the hedge, and I could see a face peering through it. It was a woman, but the hedges were high, almost 8 feet tall. I was surprised at how tall the woman was. I wondered if she was wearing stilts or some sort of high-heeled shoes. Then for a split second, she walked off and the strange noise disappeared with her, fading into the distance. Bewildered, I got up and wandered back to the house. My grandparents were inside drinking tea. I sat down at the table, and after a while, I told my grandparents what I saw. They weren't really paying attention to me until I mentioned that distinctive sound. As soon as I said that, both of them suddenly froze. Grandma's eyes grew wide, and she covered her mouth with her hand. Grandpa's face became very serious, and he grabbed me by the arm. He said, "This is very important. You must tell us exactly. How tall was she?" I told them as tall as the garden hedge. My grandfather bombarded me with questions. Where was she standing? When did this happen? What did you do? Etc., etc. I tried to answer all of his questions the best I could. He suddenly rushed out into the hallway to make a phone call. I couldn't hear what he was saying. I looked over at my grandma and she was trembling. Grandpa came barging back into the room and spoke to my grandmother. He said he had to go out for a while and to stay with me and not take my eyes off me. Take her eyes off me. I asked him what was going on, and he looked at me with a sad expression, and he said, "You've been liked by the Hashishaku-sama." With that, he hurried out and got in his truck and drove off. I turned to my grandmother and asked, "What's Hashishaku-sama?" "Don't worry," she replied in a shaking voice. "Grandpa will do something." As we sat nervously in the kitchen waiting for my grandfather to come back, she explained to me what was happening. She told me that was a dangerous thing that was haunting the area. She called it Hashishaku-sama because of its height. In Japanese, it means 8 feet tall woman. It takes on the appearance of an extremely tall woman and makes a sound like po 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 in a deep male voice. It appears slightly different depending on who sees it. Some say it looks like a haggard old woman in a kimono, and others say it's a girl in a white funeral shroud. One thing that never changes is the height or the sound it makes. That's 2 things, dude. A long time ago, it was captured by monks, and they managed to confine it in a ruined building in the outskirts of the village. They trapped it using 4 small religious statues called Jizos that they placed north, south, east, and west of the ruins, and it wasn't supposed to be able to move from there. Somehow, it managed to escape. The last time it appeared was 15 years ago. My grandmother said that anyone who saw 8 feet tall was destined to die within a few days. It all sounded so crazy, I wasn't sure what to believe. When Grandpa came back, he was with an old woman. She introduced herself as Kei-san and handed me a small crumpled piece of parchment saying, "Hold on to this and don't let go." Then she and Grandpa went upstairs to do something. I was left in the kitchen with my grandmother again. I needed to go to the bathroom, and Grandma followed me to the bathroom and wouldn't let me shut the door. I was beginning to become really frightened by all this. After a while, Grandpa and Kei-san took me upstairs and brought me into my bedroom. The windows were covered with newspaper, and a lot of ancient runes had been written on them. There were small bowls of salt in all 4 corners of the room, and a small Buddha figure placed in the center of the room atop of a wooden box. There was also a bright blue bucket. "What's the bucket for?" "That's for the bathroom," Grandpa said. Kei-san sat down with me on the bed and said, "Soon the sun will be setting, so listen carefully. You must stay in the room until tomorrow morning. You must not come out under any circumstances until 7 o'clock tomorrow. Your grandmother and your grandfather will not speak to you or call you until then. Remember, do not leave your room for any reason until then. I will let your parents know what is going on." She spoke in such a grave tone that all I could do was quietly nod my head. "You have to follow all of Kei-san's instructions to the letter," Grandpa told me, "and never let go of the parchment she gave you, and if anything happens, pray to Buddha and make sure you lock the door when we leave." They walked out into the hallway after saying goodbye to me. I closed the door and locked it. I turned on the TV and tried to watch it, but I was so nervous I felt sick to my stomach. Grandma had left some snacks and rice balls in there for me, but I couldn't eat them. I felt like I was in prison, and I was very depressed and scared. I laid down in bed and waited. Before I knew it, I was asleep. When I woke up, just after 1 a.m., I noticed something tapping on the window. I felt the blood draining from my face, and my heart skipped a beat. I desperately tried to calm myself down, telling myself that it was the wind playing tricks on me or maybe a branch of a tree. I turned the volume up on the TV to drown out the tapping noise, and eventually it stopped altogether. I heard Grandpa call me. "Are you okay in there?" If you're too scared, you don't have to stay in there alone. I can come in and keep you company. I smiled and rushed over to open the door, but then I stopped. I had felt goosebumps all over my body. It sounded like Grandpa's voice, but somehow it was different. I couldn't tell what it was. I just knew it wasn't him. What are you doing? Grandpa said. You can open the door now. I glanced to my left, and chills went down my spine. All the salt in the bowls were starting to turn black. This is a lot to read. I backed away from the door, and my whole body was trembling with fear. I fell on my knees in front of the Buddha statue and clutched the piece of parchment tightly in my hand. I stared desperately, praying for help. Then I heard the voice outside. Po, 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 po. The tapping on the window started up again. I was overcome by fear, and I crouched there in front of the statue, half crying, half praying for the rest of the night. I felt like it would never end, but eventually in the morning, the salt in all 4 bowls were pitch black. I checked my watch, and it was 7:30 a.m., so I cautiously opened up the door. Grandma and Kei-san were standing outside, waiting for me. When they saw my face, my grandma burst into tears. I'm so glad you're still alive, she said. That's a good thing to tell your kid or your grandkid.
Gee, thanks, Grandma.
Yeah, no kidding. I went downstairs and I was surprised to see my father and my mother sitting in the kitchen. Grandpa came in and said, "Hurry up, we've got to get going." We went to the front door and there was a large black van waiting in the driveway. Several men from the village were standing around it, pointing
You never
at
get
me.
into those.
It had windows, don't worry.
I don't care.
Several men pointing at me, saying, "That's the boy." The van was a 9-seater, and I was in it, surrounded by 8 men.
Wait a minute, and he still got it in. There's several men in there pointing at you and go, "That's the one." And you
That's the
still get
boy.
in.
Kei-san was driving, though.
I don't give a fuck.
Maybe they had good candy, I guess.
Some great candy. It was hardtack.
It was them hard caramels that
Yeah. That scare other yokai away.
yeah, the Kuchiyama is like.
Yeah. Kuche Sake Ana.
That's what I said.
Got a bunch of
Gucci
suffering
Yama.
men sitting in a black van offering you to come in, and they got hard caramels for you.
Oh,
That
just
sounds
wait.
like a hard pass.
It's going to get even better, Derek. The man on my left looked down at me and said, "You've got yourself in quite a spot of trouble now. I know you're probably worried.
Oh,
Just keep your head down and your eyes shut."
Whoa!
Oh, no.
Hey! Whoa! Whoa!
This sounds a lot like the beginning to a human sex traffic ring.
We're
Oh, wait.
getting
Is that
close to
enough?
getting canceled
about
already, Derek.
Yeah, sorry guys.
All right. So
We don't condone this.
we can't see it, but you can. Don't open your eyes until we've gotten you safely out of here. Grandpa drove in front, and my dad's car was following behind. When everyone was ready, our little convoy started moving. We were fairly slow, around 20 kilometers or less. After a while, Kei-san said something. This is where it gets hard. Jeez, Kei-san, come on. And she started muttering a prayer under her breath. Then I heard the voice. I clutched the apartment Kei-san had given me tightly in my hand. I kept my head down, but I peeked outside. I saw a white dress fluttering in the breeze. It was moving along with the van. She was outside the window, but she was keeping pace with us. Then suddenly, she bent down and peered into the van. The man beside me shouted, "Close your eyes." I immediately shut my eyes as tight as I could and tightened my grip on the piece of parchment. Then the tapping began. The voice became louder. There was a tapping on all the windows around us. All the men in the van were startled and on edge, muttering nervously to Kei-san. The men in the van were all blood relatives of Kei-san, and that's why they had been sitting around me and why my father and my grandpa were driving behind. It was all done to try to confuse Hashishaku-sama. It took a while to contact everyone and get them all together, and that is why I had been confined in my room all night. He told me that one of the little Jizo statues that were meant to keep her trapped had been broken, and that's how she escaped. It gave me chills, and I was glad when we finally got home. All this happened more than 10 years ago. I haven't been able to talk about it much or set foot in the country. Afterwards, I would call them every few weeks and talk to them on the phone. Over the years, I tried to convince myself that it was just a nightmare, and some elaborate prank. My grandfather died 2 years ago. When he was sick, he wouldn't allow me to visit him and left strict instructions that I was not allowed to attend his funeral. It was sad. My grandmother called a few days ago. She said she had been diagnosed with cancer. She missed me terribly and wanted to see me one last time before she died. And I asked her if she was sure, and she said, all that happened a long time ago. It's forgotten you, and now you're all grown up. And for a moment, I wanted to say yes, but I told her, what about the Hashishaku-sama? For a moment, there was silence on the other end of the phone. Then I heard in a deep masculine voice saying, po, 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 po.
Oh, no.
Yep, po, po, po. So,
No.
then I wrote this part because I get bored. This is my small beginner dive into the creepy ass shit known as yokai. Blah, 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 banter and bullshit. Ben says some stupid stuff. Jake says some stupid stuff. Fans love it for some reason, and the show is over. About time I finish this episode. Thank you, Japan, for the difficult pronunciation and the creepy ass shit about ladies.
That checks out.
Yeah. So, what do we have to say about yokais?
They're fucking weird, bud.
They are.
And you didn't even get into like the actually weirdest ones.
No. These ones were quite tame.
Yeah.
Maybe not the techie.
Is that weirder than the 8-foot tall
Those all
lady?
seem
Well, running around on elbows, that's a little bit weird. Like, you got funny
we
bones,
have
that
cool
would
stuff
hurt.
like Bigfoots and Dogmens and fucking actual ghosts. We got demons, people being possessed, all sorts of cool shit. And the best thing they can think of is a whole bunch of people who are either A, pissed off because their faces got carved, upset because they themselves fell onto some train tracks, and then this fucking Yao Ming lady. Fuck.
Yow.
And they all have these rules and regulations. They all have these things like, oh, don't worry. If you get caught, do this. With ours, it's like, hey, yeah, if you run into a dog, yeah, where are your guns, people?
It's Japan. They don't have any more.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
And
why
it's
they-
probably
that's
all
why-
women because of how they, disposed of female babies back in the day.
That was China.
Was it?
Yeah, that wasn't Japan.
Sorry, Japan.
Yeah.
They weren't that fucking much of a dick.
I thought Japan had a even worse population problem than China.
Negative.
Oh. Okay. Well, do you guys have anything to say?
No, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, there's
There's a lot more we can
10,000
do too.
other- Yeah. And if this one goes well, then I'll go even more unhinged yokai.
The scariest part of all of this was the child being led into the black end full of 9 men.
Yeah, that might be real.
They're like, yeah, don't worry. The Yoshami Hakasama is fucking after you. Go ahead, get in the fucking van. Why does it say free candy on the side? Oh, don't worry. We use this for our side business.
Ice cream and hugs.
Where's the puppies?
Yeah.
You promised me puppies.
No, just get in, close your eyes, put your head down,
Don't look.
hold on to your stuffed animal. Don't look me in the eye. I told you not to.
So we should probably name this episode something very tame in hopes that nobody listens to it so we can keep our show for another couple of weeks.
All you gotta do is put a trigger warning in the beginning of it.
Yeah,
Trigger warning.
This was far from the worst that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just name this this episode Derek Unchained.
Why?
Because
I have been quite tame.
you're talking
haven't even
about
said
molesting.
I'm not talking about it, nor am I condoning it. I'm saying the scariest part of this entire episode was the child being dragged into the van.
God unwillingly, and you're implying the molestation.
Got in willingly. Wink, wink. That's what they all did while they were in the van. Wink, wink at each other. Oh, don't worry. The Kami Sakamama is coming after you. Get it in the fucking van.
You want to know what it said on the side of the of the van?
What did it say?
NAMBLA.
Oh, yeah. Checks out.
National Man Boy Love Association.
All right, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy our show, please don't forget to share it with a friend. Tell everybody you know how great it is. Derek, pleasure having you on the show again, buddy.
Oh, thanks for having me.
To everybody else, thanks for hanging out with us once again here on the Paranatural Podcast. We love you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Say good night, Derek.
Good night.
Yeah, don't be a dick.